Bill Browder claims Russian President Vladimir Putin is not suffering enough financially and encourages more Western governments to apply more financial pressure on the Russian dictator in order to stop him from funding the war in Ukraine. Mr. Browder spoke to about why Vladimir Putin needed more sanctions. The American-British financier discussed Western governments weaning themselves off Russian oil and gas. Mr. Browder explained how Western governments were helping Putin fund the war in Ukraine by buying Russian oil, as Putin makes billions of pounds every day from oil and gas purchases. The war in Ukraine has been raging for well over 3 months, despite mass global condemnation for the Russian bloody onslaught. Mr. Browder said, "Well, we haven't done enough from the financial sanctions. The purpose of financial sanctions is to cut off Putin's ability to fight this war. In other words, if he has no money, he can't fund an invasion. At the moment he's got a lot of money coming in mainly from the sale of oil and gas to Western Europe." Mr. Browder added, he gets $1 billion a day from Germany, Italy and other countries. And the war costs him $1 billion a day, and so at the moment, he's not suffering financially. We have to make him suffer financially if there's any probability that he then scales back the war. Western governments have been working hard since the beginning of the war to impose tough sanctions on Russia. Some Western countries have been rushing to source oil and gas from other places, so they do not have to pay money to Russia for their country's supply. Some countries have turned to natural sources as they try to wean off from Russian oil and gas. One EU official said, "It would be humiliating to remove the oil embargo part of the package completely only to push through the other elements." So the idea is to have an embargo on Russian oil and exempt the Russian Druzhba pipeline supplying Hungary only for some time, to give the European Commission and Hungary time to solve the problem. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has discussed the UK government's imposed sanctions on Russia and has been pushing to uphold them. Ms. Truss said, "Doing business with Putin's regime is morally bankrupt and helps fund a war machine that is causing untold suffering across Ukraine. Cutting Russia's access to British services will put more pressure on the Kremlin and ultimately help ensure Putin fails in Ukraine." Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng uttered a similar sentiment. "Our professional services exports are extraordinarily valuable to many countries, which is exactly why we're locking Russia out." By restricting Russia's access to our world-class management consultants, accountants and PR firms, we're ratcheting up economic pressure on the Kremlin.